Casey, das sind meine Marshals.
Das wird bestimmt lustig. Versuch uns nicht aufzuhalten, Cowboy.
Gangs. Kartelle. Lass ihn in Ruhe.
U.S. Marshal! My name doesn't carry water anymore. So you gotta hide behind a federal badge? Now the mighty have fallen. Still got a long way to go before I make it down to you.
Why Marshal's episode to trailer has just dropped, and what we are seeing is absolutely explosive. Casey Denton is about to face something far more dangerous than any enemy he has ever encountered. The Marshals are closing in on a cartel operation, so deadly that even one wrong move could cost them everything: explosive confrontations, life-threatening chases, and a shocking revelation that will change Casey's mission forever. What we are about to see will push Casey to his absolute limit. Let's break down every single detail hidden in this trailer, because what is coming is bigger than anyone expected. The trailer opens with an absolutely gripping scene that immediately sets the tone for what is about to unfold. We see Casey and the Marshals gearing up for what appears to be one of their most dangerous operations yet. The energy is intense, the stakes are higher than ever, and you can feel the weight of the mission just by looking at their faces. This is not just another routine takedown. This is something that could go catastrophically wrong at any moment, and honestly, after watching the first episode and seeing how brilliantly they balanced action with emotional depth, I am incredibly excited to see how episode 2 will raise the bar even further. The way the trailer is cut, with quick flashes of high-speed chases, tactical raids, and moments of pure chaos, tells us that the Marshals are about to enter a war zone, and Casey, with all his SEAL training and his unmatched instincts, will be right in the center of it all. One of the most striking moments in the trailer is when we see Casey leading the team through what looks like a heavily fortified location. His focus is razor sharp, his movements are calculated, and you can see that he is fully locked in. This is the Casey we fell in love with back in Yellowstone, the protector, the warrior who will do whatever it takes to get the job done. But there is something different about him now. There is a darkness in his eyes, a pain that he is carrying with him. Monica's death has changed him, and while he is channeling that grief into his work, you can sense that it is eating away at him from the inside. And I think that internal struggle is going to be a major theme throughout this episode. Casey is not just fighting criminals, he is fighting his own demons, trying to find purpose in a world that took everything from him. Then we get a glimpse of the cartel members they are going after, and let me tell you, these are not ordinary criminals. These are organized, ruthless, and extremely dangerous individuals who will not hesitate to kill anyone who gets in their way. The trailer shows us brief flashes of their operations, the weapons they have, the networks they control, and it becomes immediately clear that this is going to be an incredibly difficult mission. The Marshals are walking into a situation where they are outnumbered, outgunned, and operating in hostile territory, and that is what makes this so thrilling. We know Casey is capable of handling himself in dangerous situations, but this feels different. This feels like a mission where anything could happen, and not everyone might make it out alive. Another moment that really caught my attention is when we see Pete Calvin giving orders to the team. He looks stressed, maybe even a little worried, which is rare for someone as experienced as him, and that tells me that whatever they are planning, even Pete knows how risky it is. We saw in episode 1 that Pete has his own emotional baggage, his own losses that he is dealing with, and I think episode 2 will start to peel back those layers. The bond between Pete and Casey is clearly strong, built on years of trust and shared experiences, but I also think we are going to see some tension between them. Maybe they will disagree on how to approach the mission. Or maybe Pete will start to worry that Casey is too emotionally compromised to make the right decisions. Either way, their dynamic is going to be fascinating to watch, and we absolutely cannot ignore Andrea in the trailer. There is a brief but very meaningful moment where we see her and Casey talking, and based on their body language, it seems like she is trying to connect with him on a deeper level. We saw in episode 1 that Casey opened up to her about having a child, something he did not share with anyone else on the team. And I think that was the beginning of a bond that will continue to grow throughout the series. Andrea seemed like the kind of person who can read people really well, and I believe she can sense that Casey is struggling. In episode 2, I expect we will see her trying to help him, maybe even pushing him to talk about what he is going through. And honestly, I think Casey needs that. He needs someone who can pull him back from the edge before he loses himself completely. Now, before we continue breaking down the rest of this explosive trailer, If you are as excited as I am about Marshals and want to see more breakdowns, theories, and deep dives into every episode, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you enjoyed episode 1 as much as I did, drop a like on this video and let me know in the comments what your favorite moment was. Did Monica's death hit you as hard as it hit me? Are you excited to see Casey back in action? Let's talk about it down below. Alright, let's keep going because there is so much more to uncover. Another detail that stood out to me is the brief moment where we see Belle in action. In episode 1, we got a sense that she is someone who can handle herself, someone who brings both intensity and a bit of humor to the team. But in this trailer, we see her in a much more serious situation. She looks focused, ready for battle, and honestly, I cannot wait to see what she is capable of when things get dangerous. Belle strikes me as a character who has probably been underestimated her whole life. And I think episode 2 might be where she proves just how valuable she is to the team. Whether it is providing crucial intel, taking down a threat, or saving someone's life, I have a feeling Belle is going to have a major moment in this episode. And I am absolutely here for it. Then there's Miles, another member of the team who I am incredibly curious about. We saw hints in episode 1 that he carries some deep emotional scars, and the trailer gives us another glimpse of that. There is a moment where he looks troubled, maybe even haunted by something from his past. And I think as the series progresses, we are going to learn more about what happened to him and why he joined the Marshals. Maybe he lost someone too, just like Casey and Pete. Maybe he is trying to find redemption for something he did or failed to do. Whatever his story is, I believe it is going to be heartbreaking. And I think his relationship with Casey will be especially important to broken men, both carrying unbearable pain, working side by side in the most dangerous situations imaginable. That is a recipe for some truly powerful storytelling. Now let's shift our focus to something that I think will be a huge emotional anchor in episode 2. Tate. In the trailer, there is a brief but incredibly meaningful shot of Tate looking out over the ranch, and you can see the weight of everything pressing down on him. This young man has been through so much already. He was kidnapped, he witnessed violence, he lost his grandfather John Dutton, and now he has lost his mother. That is more trauma than most people experience in a lifetime. And Tate is still just a kid, and I think episode 2 is going to show us how he is coping with all of this, or maybe how he is not coping. We saw at the end of episode 1 that Casey gave him an emotional speech, trying to reassure him that they would get through this together, but words can only do so much. Tate needs to see that his father is still there for him, that Casey has not been completely consumed by his grief and his mission. And I think that balance between Casey's work as a marshal and his responsibilities as a father is going to be one of the central tensions of the series. There is also a moment in the trailer where it looks like Casey might be talking to Thomas Rainwater. We saw in episode 1 that Thomas is still very much a part of Casey's life, offering wisdom and support during this incredibly difficult time. And I think Thomas will continue to be that grounding force for Casey, reminding him of who he is and what truly matters. When Thomas told Casey in episode 1 that he is not a killer but a protector, that was such a powerful moment. And I believe we will hear more of that wisdom in episode 2. Thomas understands loss, he understands pain, and he understands the burden of leadership. And Casey needs someone like that in his life right now, someone who can see through the walls he is building and remind him that he does not have to carry everything alone. But let's get back to the action because the trailer also hints at a major confrontation that is about to happen. We see what looks like a raid on a compound or a warehouse, with the Marshals moving in with full tactical gear. This is clearly a coordinated operation, the kind that requires perfect timing and flawless execution. And based on what we are seeing, the cartel is not going down without a fight. There are armed guards, fortified positions, and probably booby traps or other surprises waiting for the Marshals. This is the kind of mission where one mistake could be fatal. And I think this is where we will really see the team work together, relying on each other's strengths to survive. Casey's combat experience, Pete's leadership, Andrea's intelligence, Belle's courage, and Miles' determination will all be crucial. But even with all that, I have a feeling something unexpected is going to happen during this raid. One thing that really stands out in the trailer is the emotional weight that Casey is carrying in every single frame. You can see it in the way he moves, the way he looks at his team, and especially in the brief moments where he seems lost in thought. This is not the same Casey we saw in the early seasons of Yellowstone, the man who was trying to find peace and build a quiet life with his family. That version of Casey is gone, stripped away by tragedy and loss. What we have now is a man who is using action and danger as a way to cope with unbearable pain. And while that makes him an incredibly effective marshal, it also makes him vulnerable. He is taking risks, pushing himself harder than he should, and I think that is going to catch up with him eventually. Maybe not in episode 2, but at some point, Casey is going to reach a breaking point. And when that happens, I hope the people around him, especially Pete and Andrea, will be there to pull him back. The trailer also gives us another look at the villains. And I have to say, they look absolutely terrifying. These are not just street-level criminals. These are people who have built empires on violence, fear, and corruption. They have resources, they have connections, and they have no regard for human life. And that makes them the perfect opponents for the Marshals. But what really intrigues me is whether this cartel will be a one-episode threat, or if they will become a recurring presence throughout the season. I think it would be incredibly compelling if the Marshals take down one part of the operation in episode 2, only to discover that it is connected to something much larger. Maybe this cartel has ties to corrupt officials. Maybe they are working with other criminal organizations. Or maybe they have someone on the inside feeding them information. That kind of long-term threat would add so much depth to the series and give Casey and his team a villain worth fighting against for the entire season. Another moment in the trailer that caught my eye is when we see Andrea looking at something on a computer screen, and her expression is one of shock and concern. This makes me think that she uncovers some crucial piece of information, something that changes the entire mission. Maybe she discovers that the cartel is planning something even more dangerous than they thought. Or maybe she finds out that someone close to the team is in danger. Andrea is clearly the tech and intelligence expert of the group, and I think her skills are going to be absolutely vital in episode 2 while Casey, Pete, and the others are out in the field risking their lives. Andrea will be the one providing them with the information they need to stay alive. And I think that role is just as important as the people pulling the triggers. She is the brain behind the operation, and without her, the team would be walking in blind. We also get a quick glimpse of what looks like an interrogation scene. Someone is being questioned, and based on the intensity of the moment, it seems like the Marshals are trying to extract critical information. And I am willing to bet that Casey is the one doing the questioning. We saw in Yellowstone that Casey has a very particular way of getting information out of people. He is calm, calculated, and incredibly intimidating when he needs to be. And I think in episode 2, we might see that side of him again. But here is the thing. Casey is not just trying to get information for the sake of the mission. He is trying to find the people responsible for poisoning his community, the people who indirectly caused Monica's death. And that personal motivation might make him cross lines that he normally would not cross. It is a dangerous path to go down. And I think Pete and the others will start to notice that Casey is becoming more ruthless, more willing to do whatever it takes. And that could create some serious conflict within the team. Now let's talk about something that the trailer only hints at but I think will be huge. The possibility of betrayal or deception. There is a moment where someone on the team looks suspicious, like they might be hiding something. And while I do not want to jump to conclusions, it would not be surprising if the Marshals discover that someone has been feeding information to the cartel. Maybe it is not someone on their immediate team, but perhaps someone in a supporting role. Someone who has access to their plans and operations. That kind of betrayal would be devastating, especially for Casey, who is already struggling to trust anyone after everything he has been through. And if it turns out that someone they trusted has been working against them, it would add a whole new layer of danger and paranoia to the series. Suddenly, the Marshals would not just be fighting external threats. They would have to worry about enemies within their own ranks. The action in this trailer is obviously next level. But what really makes Marshals special is the emotional depth behind all the explosions and gunfights. Every mission has personal stakes for these characters. Casey is not just chasing criminals. He is chasing justice for Monica and for everyone else who has been harmed by these cartels. Pete is not just leading a team. He is carrying his own grief and trying to make sure his people make it home alive. Andrea, Belle, and Miles are not just doing a job. They are part of something bigger, something that matters. And I think episode 2 is going to continue building on those emotional foundations while delivering the kind of adrenaline-pumping action that makes this series so addictive. Another fascinating element that the trailer hints at is the evolving relationship between Casey and his team. In episode 1, we saw that Casey was still very much the lone wolf, someone who operates best on his own and struggles to fully integrate into a unit. But in this trailer, there are moments where it seems like he is starting to trust his teammates more, starting to see them not just as colleagues but as people he can rely on. And I think that shift is incredibly important for his character development. Casey has spent so much of his life keeping people at a distance, building walls to protect himself from more pain. But the Marshals are forcing him to open up, to work as part of a team, and to trust that these people have his back. And honestly, I think that is exactly what he needs right now. He needs to know that he is not alone, that there are people fighting alongside him who understand what he is going through. And I think Pete, Andrea, Belle, and Miles will prove themselves to be exactly that kind of team. But with that trust comes vulnerability. And I think the trailer is hinting that something might happen in episode 2 that tests that trust in a major way. Maybe one of the team members makes a mistake that puts everyone in danger. Or maybe someone gets hurt because of a decision Casey made. Whatever it is, I have a feeling that episode 2 will feature a moment where the team has to decide whether they can truly rely on each other when everything is falling apart. And those kinds of moments are what separate good shows from great ones. It is not just about the action and the explosions. It is about the characters, their relationships, and how they grow together through impossible circumstances. The trailer also shows us another brief shot of Tate, and this time he looks different. There is a determination in his eyes, a sense that he is starting to find his own strength in the midst of all this tragedy. And I think that is going to be such an important part of his journey. Tate cannot just be the grieving son forever. He has to find a way to honor his mother's memory while also carving out his own path. And I believe that as the series progresses, we are going to see Tate step up in ways we never expected. Maybe he will start helping out more on the ranch, taking on responsibilities that his mother used to handle. Maybe he will even start showing interest in the kind of work his father does, wanting to understand what drives Casey to put himself in danger every single day. And that would be such a powerful parallel to Casey's own journey. Just as John Dutton shaped Casey into the man he became, Casey will shape Tate into the man he will be. And I think that legacy, that passing of the torch from one generation to the next, is going to be one of the most emotionally resonant aspects of the entire series. Now let's talk about something that I think the trailer is building toward. A major twist or revelation that will change everything. There is a moment near the end of the trailer where Casey looks absolutely stunned, like he has just learned something that shakes him to his core. And I am desperately curious about what that could be. Maybe he discovers that the cartel operation is bigger than anyone thought, reaching into places that nobody expected. Maybe he learns that someone from his past is involved in all of this. Or maybe, and this would be absolutely devastating, he finds out that Monica's death was not just a tragic consequence of environmental poisoning, but something more deliberate, something that was orchestrated. That might sound extreme, but think about it. If the cartels are powerful enough to corrupt officials and control entire regions, what is stopping them from targeting people who might stand in their way? And Monica, with her activism and her work in the Native American community, could have been seen as a threat. If Casey discovers that her death was not just bad luck but murder, that would send him down a path of vengeance that nobody could pull him back from. The trailer also shows us more of the Montana landscape, and I have to say, the cinematography looks absolutely stunning. The vast open spaces, the mountains in the distance, the rural roads that seem to stretch on forever. All of it creates this incredible sense of isolation and danger. The Marshals are operating in a place where help is not just around the corner, where backup might be hours away, and where the cartels have home field advantage. And that setting adds so much tension to every scene. When the Marshals are pursuing someone through those empty roads, you feel the distance, the vulnerability, the fact that they are truly on their own out there. And I think that sense of isolation mirrors what Casey is feeling internally. He is alone in his grief, alone in his pain. And even though he is surrounded by his team, there is still a part of him that feels completely cut off from the rest of the world. One more thing that I want to touch on before we move to the final section is the pacing of the trailer. It starts relatively calm, building tension slowly, and then it explodes into pure chaos in the second half. And I think that reflects how episode 2 is going to unfold. The first part of the episode will probably focus on planning, on the team preparing for the mission and dealing with their personal issues. We will get more character moments, more dialogue, more insight into what everyone is thinking and feeling. But then, once the operation begins, it is going to be non-stop action from that point forward. Gunfights, chases, explosions, close calls, everything that makes this show so thrilling to watch. And I think that balance between character development and action is what makes Marshal so special. It is not just a mindless action series. It is a show that cares deeply about its characters and uses the action to explore who they are and what they are fighting for. As we reach the final moment of the trailer, there is one shot that absolutely stands out above everything else. We see Casey standing alone, looking out over the landscape. And there is something profoundly haunting about that image. He looks exhausted, broken, but also strangely determined. This is a man who has lost everything that mattered to him, yet he is still standing, still fighting, still searching for some kind of purpose in a world that has taken so much away. And I think that single image captures the entire essence of what Marshals is trying to tell us. This is not just a story about catching bad guys and taking down cartels. This is a story about grief, about survival, about finding meaning in the darkest moments of your life. Casey is on a journey, and we are witnessing every painful, brutal, beautiful step of it. And honestly, that is what makes this series so emotionally powerful. We are not just watching action scenes and shootouts. We are watching a man try to put himself back together while the world keeps tearing him apart. The trailer ends with what looks like a massive explosion and everything goes black. And that cliffhanger is absolutely perfect because it leaves us with so many questions. Did the mission succeed? Did everyone make it out alive? What was the cost of this operation? And most importantly, how much more can Casey endure before he completely breaks? These are the questions that will keep us on the edge of our seats until episode 2 finally arrives. And I have a feeling that when we do get to watch it, we are going to be absolutely blown away. If episode 1 was any indication of the quality and intensity this series is capable of delivering, then episode 2 is going to raise the stakes even higher and push these characters to their absolute limits. What I love most about this trailer is that it understands what made Yellowstone so special and brings that same energy to Marshall's while also creating its own identity. This is not just Yellowstone with badges. This is something new, something that explores different themes and different kinds of conflict. But at its heart, it is still about family, about legacy, about people trying to do the right thing in a world that constantly punishes them for it. Casey Denton is the perfect character to carry that torch forward. And I truly believe that Marshall's is going to be just as impactful and memorable as the show that came before it. And let's not forget the incredible work that the entire cast and crew are putting into the series. The performances, the writing, the direction, the cinematography. Everything comes together to create something truly special. You can feel the passion and dedication in every frame. And that is what separates great television from everything else. The people making this show care deeply about these characters and these stories. And that love and commitment shines through in every single moment. I cannot wait to see where they take us next, what challenges they throw at Casey and his team, and how they continue to explore the emotional depth that makes this series so compelling. So, what do you think is going to happen in episode 2? Do you think the mission will succeed, or are we about to witness a devastating failure? Will Casey discover something about Monica's death that changes everything? And how do you think Tate is going to handle everything that is happening around him? I want to hear all your theories, all your predictions, and all your thoughts about this incredible trailer. Drop your comments down below and let's discuss everything we just saw. And if you loved this breakdown and want to see more content like this, make sure you smash that like button because it really helps the channel grow. Subscribe if you have not already and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. We are going to be covering every single episode of Marshall's with deep dives, theories, character analysis, and so much more. This is just the beginning of an incredible journey, and I want you to be part of it every step of the way. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, stay safe, stay strong, and get ready for what is about to be one of the most intense episodes of television we have seen in a long time.